skills practice for section 8.4. It's on rectangles, rhombi, and squares. Those are all types of parallelograms. So they're telling you that each of these shapes is a parallelogram. So identify each parallelogram as a rectangle, a rhombus, a square, or none of them. We're going to start with number 3. This is a parallelogram where you have 4 congruent sides. That's a rhombus. That's what rhombuses look like. Those are the marks you need for it to be a rhombus. Number 5. This is a parallelogram. We know that because they tell you and because they show you the opposite sides are congruent. They didn't need to do that. So this is a parallelogram with 4 right angles. That's a rectangle. So we showed what a rhombus is, what a rectangle is. What's a square? Remember, a square is the combination of both of these. So a square is going to have 4 congruent sides and 4 right angles, just like this shape does. This is what a square looks like. It's not a square because it looks like it. It's a square because there's 4 congruent sides and 4 right angles. This shape is just a parallelogram. The opposite sides are congruent. That makes it a parallelogram. It tells you that already. But notice how there's no right angles. Notice how all 4 sides aren't congruent. That's why you can't do any better than that. Now, they're telling you that this shape here is a parallelogram, and I'm going to say BS on that. There's no way this is parallel to that based on this appearance. Okay, so in my opinion, this is probably a trapezoid by the way it looks. Okay, by the marks that are given, you can't prove that it's anything. So I'm just going to put none. Maybe we'll just leave it at that. Number 6, again, they're telling you that's a parallelogram. These sides are not parallel. So again, it's not good to judge on appearance, but there's no marks here that's going to indicate that it's any special type of parallelogram. I'm just going to put none. Number 7 through 14, we're going to use this picture. And what I usually like to do is maybe just work on the picture and then answer the questions. It's important to know what kind of shape this is. The opposite sides are congruent. That makes it a parallelogram. All sides are congruent. That makes it a rhombus. And we have a right angle. If you have a parallelogram that has a right angle, then the other angle that's opposite of it is a right angle. Likewise, these consecutive angles or adjacent angles must be supplementary. So if that's 90, this one's 90. And then its opposite angle is 90 as well. So this is a square also. So we were able to show, and obviously if there's 4 right angles, then it's a rectangle. We just showed that it's all 4 of these types of shapes. The most specific name for it is a square. Now, I know things about squares. I know if this piece is 10, then that's 10, that's 10, that's 10. I also know, space is kind of tight here, that every single one of these angles in the corners is 90, and they get bisected by those diagonals. So each of these pieces is 45 degrees. If it helps you, remember that these 4 triangles in a square are congruent right isosceles triangles. So these angles are 90 here as well. Now, that work that I just did right here answers all of these questions from 7 to 14. The only way that you could possibly make a mistake is if you don't know what this is asking. Number 7. This is asking you how far it is from B to O. Here's B, here's O, how far is it? It's 10. Number 11, it's asking you for the measure of angle AOB. Use your finger or your pencil. Here's A, here's O, here's B. This angle right here is 90 degrees. Let's skip down to the next diagram. We're going to use this for 15 through 22. We'll do it the same way. We'll work on here and then you can answer the questions after. It's important that you know what shape this is. I can see automatically that these diagonals are bisecting each other. And I also notice that they're probably not congruent since these are marked differently. So this makes this shape a parallelogram. And it also makes it difficult for me to prove that it's a rectangle because the diagonals aren't congruent. But what I could do is, since it's a parallelogram, I know that the bottom is 20, the top is 20, and if the right side's 20, the left side's 20. And we're talking about in inches here. So that gives me a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. That means this guy is a rhombus. But since it wasn't proven to be a rectangle, you can't call it a square. So rhombus is the best you can do on this guy. E to M is 17.3. M to G would be 17.3 as well. And notice how that's the first question they ask you. The other thing is going to deal with, well, I'm sorry, there's this other diagonal, they tell you this is 10. So then this guy's 10. F to M is 10. They don't even ask you about that, but they might ask you F to H. Yeah, that's what they do. So if this is 10 and this is 10, you know this is 20. The other thing that we're going to deal with are the angles. They give you one angle. And remember in our videos we talked about, if they give you one angle in this whole shape, you can figure out the rest of them, because the nice thing about this is these triangles are congruent to each other. They're right triangles, congruent right triangles. So all these angles are 90. If this angle's 60, we know this angle's 60, and this one's 60, and this one's 60. And then the other angles are 30. So these are 30, 60, 90 triangles. Okay, so let's do one together. Let's find the measure of angle EHG. Here's E, here's H, here's G. It's a combination of two 60-degree angles. 60 and 60 gives you 120. How about angle FGE? Here's F, here's G, here's E. Angle FGE is that 30-degree angle. So we got all the answers right here. Just answer the questions.